Sometimes you think you know what you want until life teaches you the difference between excitement and stupidity. I'm Heidi, I'm 27, and I just learned that lesson the hardest way possible. But before I get into all that mess, let me start from the beginning when I thought I had everything figured out. Make sure to hit that like button if you enjoy my content, and don't forget to subscribe if you're new here. So there I was working retail at this mid-tier department store, coming home every day to my boyfriend Sawyer, who worked some logistics job moving numbers around on spreadsheets. We'd been together almost 2 years, living in this decent apartment, splitting everything 50-50, like some kind of business arrangement. Look, Sawyer wasn't a bad guy, but he was just so methodical about everything. He had this way of treating our relationship like another project to manage, date night every Friday, check. Bills split evenly, check. Talk about engagement timeline, check. The engagement thing really started getting under my skin. He'd bring it up like he was scheduling a delivery. So I'm thinking we should get engaged next year, maybe around spring. That gives us time to save for a ring and look at venues. Where was the passion? Where was the guy who would surprise me, make me feel like I was worth taking risks for? Instead, I got this careful, calculating man who researched restaurants for weeks before booking reservations. I started noticing things that annoyed me more and more. How he'd wear the same 3 work shirts in rotation because they were practical. How he'd analyze every purchase like we were running a corporation. Even in bed, he was so considerate it made me want to scream. Always asking if I was comfortable following the same routine like he was reading from a manual. I wanted someone who would just take charge, who knew what they wanted and went for it. My friend Dawn would listen to me complain during lunch breaks. Girl, you've got a good man who treats you right. Do you know how rare that is? But Dawn's been settled with his boyfriend Griffin for years. Easy for him to say when he's never felt trapped in a relationship that felt more like a really polite roommate situation. I started fantasizing about what it would be like to be with someone unpredictable. Someone who would show up at my work with flowers just because. Someone who would book a spontaneous weekend trip without consulting a budget first. Someone who would make me feel alive instead of just comfortable. Sawyer was like a safety net, but sometimes you want to feel like you're flying, even if there's a chance you might fall. Then Isaac slid back into my life like lightning, cutting through all that suburban monotony. It started with a friend request on Facebook that made my heart skip when I saw his name. Isaac Reeves. My ex from 3 years ago, the one who got away, the one who made 6 months feel like a lifetime of adventures. I stared at that request for 10 minutes before accepting it, my hands actually shaking. Within an hour, he was messaging me. Heidi, can't believe I found you on here. You look amazing. How have you been? Just seeing his name brought back all these buried memories. How he'd show up at my apartment at midnight with takeout from some hole-in-the-wall place he'd discovered. How he'd convince me to call in sick so we could drive to the coast and watch the sunrise. He never planned anything, but somehow every day with him felt like an adventure. I found myself messaging him back during breaks, during slow periods, basically whenever Sawyer wasn't looking. Isaac was traveling for work, something about consulting that sounded way more exciting than logistics. He'd send pictures from different cities, always in some cool bar or restaurant, always looking like he was living his best life. Wish you were here to try this place with me. He'd write, and I'd feel this ache for something I couldn't name. The conversations got deeper fast. He remembered things about me that Sawyer had never bothered to learn. How I'd always wanted to learn photography, but never had the confidence. How I used to write poetry in college before convincing myself it was impractical. How I'd always dreamed of picking up and moving somewhere completely new. You were always too good for this small-town life. He wrote, I always knew you were meant for bigger things. Meanwhile, Sawyer was completely oblivious. He'd ask about my day, and I'd give generic answers while my phone buzzed with messages from Isaac. Work was fine, nothing exciting. But inside, I was buzzing with energy I hadn't felt in years. Someone was actually interested in my thoughts, my dreams, my feelings. Someone remembered who I used to be before I settled into this soul-crushing routine. Isaac started calling during my lunch breaks. His voice was exactly the same, that low, confident tone that made everything sound like a secret between us. He'd tell me about places he'd been, people he'd met, opportunities opening up for him. "I'm thinking about settling down somewhere soon," he said during one call. "Maybe finding the right person to share all this with." I keep thinking about what we had, Heidi, how real it was. I started lying to Sawyer about where I was going. Meeting Dawn for dinner became my excuse when I really just wanted to drive around talking to Isaac. I'd park at the lake and we'd talk for hours about everything, our past, our dreams, what we wanted from life. He made me remember who I used to be, who I could still be if I had the courage to reach for it. "You deserve someone who sees your potential," Isaac would say. "Someone who encourages you to take risks, to grow, to become who you're meant to be. You're too vibrant to waste away in some safe relationship." And he was right. I was wasting away. I was 27 years old, and I was already living like my life was over. The guilt was eating me alive, but not the guilt you'd expect. I felt guilty for staying with Sawyer when I clearly wanted something else. I felt guilty for pretending to be happy with our engagement plans when the thought of marrying him made me feel trapped. I felt guilty for going through the motions when both of us deserved better. Isaac started hinting about coming back to town. "I miss you," he'd say. "I miss us. I think I made a mistake letting you go." Suddenly, all those buried feelings came rushing back. The excitement, the passion, the feeling that anything was possible. With Isaac, I felt like the main character in my own life, instead of just supporting player in someone else's safe, calculated story. The night I finally told Sawyer the truth, I'd been planning it for weeks. Isaac was coming back to town, and I couldn't keep living this lie. I deserved to be happy, to feel alive, to be with someone who actually appreciated what they had. Sawyer came home from work that Tuesday, kissed my forehead like always, and settled onto the couch with his laptop like always. I looked at him sitting there in his wrinkled work shirt, already absorbed in whatever spreadsheet was more important than connecting with me, and I just snapped. "We need to talk to be some," I said, muting the TV. He wasn't even watching. He looked up with this mildly annoyed expression, like I was interrupting something important. "Can it wait? I'm trying to finish this before tomorrow." And that right there was everything wrong with us. His work was always more important than our relationship. His schedules and systems and little routines always came first. "No, it can't wait. I've been thinking a lot lately about us, about what I want from life." He closed the laptop with this resigned sigh, like talking to his girlfriend was such a burden. "Okay, what's going on?" "And like you will all do is send one when I don't think this is working anymore." The words came out easier than expected. "You're a decent guy, Sawyer, but I need someone with actual passion. Someone who isn't content to just exist in this bubble of routine and safety. I need someone who makes me feel alive." He just stared at me, processing this like data, instead of the end of our relationship. Where is this coming from? I hesitated for maybe 2 seconds before deciding he deserved the truth. "I've been talking to my ex Isaac, the one from before you, and being with him reminded me what I've been missing. He's a real man, Sawyer. He takes risks, he lives life, he doesn't just sit around optimizing routes and planning budgets. You just work and come home and watch TV. That's not enough for me anymore." The silence stretched between us, and I could see him trying to process this logically, like another problem to solve. "So you're leaving me for him. I'm leaving you for me," I said, and I meant it. He just helped me remember what I actually want from life, what I deserve. Cool. That was it. Just cool, like I told him we were out of milk. "When are you moving out?" I blinked. I'd expected him to fight for me, to show some emotion, to prove that I actually mattered to him. Instead, he was already moving into logistics mode, figuring out practical details. I can pack this weekend. Tonight would be better." "Tonight, are you serious? I just told you I'm leaving and you want me gone immediately." "You just told me you're leaving me for another guy." "Yeah, I'd prefer you leave tonight." That's when I lost it. This is exactly why I'm leaving. A real man would fight for what he wants. A real man would show some emotion, some passion. You're just sitting there like, This is a business transaction. A real man would... What? His voice was so calm it was infuriating. Beg you to stay, Nah. You want him? Go get him. I'm not stopping you. I stared at him, waiting for something, anything that would show he actually cared. But he just sat there looking at me like I was a problem he'd already solved. Fine. You have until Friday. That's 3 days. You're such a child, I snapped. This is exactly why I'm leaving. A real man would what, make this easier for you, handle your breakup better so you feel good about what you're doing. He stood up, and for a second, I thought he was finally going to show some fire. Instead, he just shrugged. You want him? Go get him. I grabbed my purse and slammed out of there, my heart pounding with anger and frustration. He didn't even try to stop me. Didn't call after me. Didn't chase me down the hallway. Nothing. I drove to Don's place and cried on his couch for 2 hours, but they weren't sad tears. They were angry tears. How dare Sawyer make me feel like the bad guy when he was the one who'd let our relationship die through sheer indifference? I spent the next 3 days at Don's place texting with Isaac and planning our future. He was so supportive, so understanding about what I was going through. You're being so brave, he told me. It takes courage to choose happiness over security. When Friday came, I showed up with Don and Griffin to get my stuff expecting some kind of scene. Instead, Sawyer had already boxed everything up neat and organized like he was shipping a return package. You're really just letting her go? Don asked him, clearly uncomfortable with how calm Sawyer was. She made her choice, Sawyer said, holding the door open for us. I grabbed the last box and turned to face him one more time. You know what, you're going to regret this. Isaac treats me like a queen, like I actually matter. You'll see what you lost. I'm sure I will. He's picking me up tomorrow, taking me shopping out to dinner. That's what a real man does. Sounds great. Good luck with everything. I wanted him to beg to get upset to show me that losing me actually affected him. Instead, he just stood there, holding the door like he couldn't wait for me to leave. Bye, he said, and that was it. 2 years, and all I got was bye. Isaac picked me up the next morning in this sleek black sedan that probably cost more than Sawyer made in months. He looked exactly like I remembered. Tall, confident, wearing this expensive jacket that screamed success. When he kissed me, it felt electric in a way that Sawyer's pecks on the forehead never had. Ready for an adventure, beautiful, he said, and my heart actually fluttered. We drove to this upscale outlet mall about an hour away, the kind of place Sawyer would never take me because he'd spend the whole time calculating cost ratios. Isaac held my hand as we walked through the parking lot, and I felt like I was finally living the life I deserved. I want to spoil you today, he said. Make up for lost time. The first store we hit was this high-end department store with designer everything. Isaac grabbed a cart and started loading it up like money was no object. A leather jacket that cost more than my monthly rent. Shoes I'd only ever looked at online. A handbag I'd dreamed about but never thought I'd own. Isaac, this is too much, I protested, but he just laughed. Nothing's too much for you, baby. I've been doing really well with work, and I want to share that with you. You deserve beautiful things. He kept piling stuff into the cart. Dresses, jewelry, perfume. The total had to be thousands of dollars. I'm going to get my wallet from the car, he said when we'd finished shopping. Take this to the exit and I'll meet you there. I should have questioned it. I should have asked why he didn't just pay inside the store like a normal person. But I was so caught up in the fantasy of being spoiled, of finally being with someone who wanted to give me nice things, that I just pushed that cart toward the exit like he asked. The second I stepped outside, security grabbed me. Ma'am, you need to come with us. Why my boyfriend is getting his wallet from the car? I looked around frantically for Isaac, but his car was gone. Just gone. Like he'd never been there at all. They dragged me back inside to this little security office where they explained that I just walked out of the store with over $3,000 worth of unpaid merchandise. Grand theft. A felony. I tried to explain about Isaac, about how he was supposed to pay, about how this was all a misunderstanding. They didn't believe me. Why would they? I was the one caught with the cart full of stolen goods. The police came. They arrested me. They read me my rights while other shoppers stared and whispered. I kept thinking Isaac would come back, that he'd realize what happened and fix this somehow. But he never did. I sat in that holding cell for hours before they finally let me make a phone call. I tried Isaac first, straight to voicemail. I tried him again. Same thing. The number I'd been texting for weeks was suddenly disconnected, like he'd never existed. I think that's when panic really set in. I didn't have bail money. My parents were on some cruise completely unreachable. Dawn couldn't afford it. Griffin said no immediately. I had exactly one person left to call, and the thought of dialing his number made me want to throw up. But I was desperate. I was looking at serious jail time, and Sawyer was the only person I knew with any savings, so I called him crying before he even answered. "Hello. Please, I need help. Please." I could barely get the words out through my sobbing. It took him a second to recognize my voice. "What's wrong?" I'm in jail. They arrested me. It's all a mistake. I didn't do anything. Please, you have to help me." There was this long pause. "Jail. Right. What happened?" "He set me up. That piece of garbage set me up." "I didn't know. I swear, I didn't know." I told him everything. The shopping trip, the cart, how Isaac disappeared and left me holding the bag. Literally. "Oh, wow." His voice was so calm it made me want to scream. "That's rough." That's it. I need help. I need bail money. The bail is $5,000. I don't have that. My friend doesn't have it. My parents are unreachable. Please. I know things ended badly, but please." Another long pause. "Why are you calling me?" "Because I don't have anyone else. You're the only person I know who has savings. Please, I'll pay you back, I swear." "No." The word hit me like a slap. "What?" "No, I'm not bailing you out." "Are you serious right now? I'm in jail." "Yeah, with the real man who framed you for theft. The exciting guy you left me for. How's that working out?" My stomach dropped. You knew about him?" "Knew he had warrants. Yep. Saw his poster at the courthouse months ago." "And you didn't tell me?" Why would I? You made it very clear you didn't want my input on your life. You wanted excitement. You got it." I couldn't breathe. I could go to prison. Probably not for a first offense, but yeah, this is going to suck for you. Good luck with that. "I can't believe you're just going to..." The line went dead. He'd hung up on me. I called back immediately. Blocked. I tried again from a different number. Blocked again. That's when it really hit me. I was completely alone. The man I'd left for had destroyed my life and disappeared. The man I'd left behind knew exactly what was going to happen and let me walk straight into it. I'd played myself so completely that I almost had to admire the poetic justice of it all. Don posted my bail eventually, though it took him 3 days to scrape together the money. By then, I'd had plenty of time to think about how spectacularly I'd screwed up my life. But even sitting in that cell, I couldn't bring myself to admit that Sawyer had been right about everything. That Isaac was exactly the kind of man who would use women and throw them away when he was done. The legal stuff dragged on for months. I hired this bargain basement lawyer who convinced me to fight the charges instead of taking the plea deal. "The security footage isn't clear enough," he said. "They can't prove intent." He was wrong. The footage was crystal clear. It showed Isaac loading the cart, telling me something, pointing toward the exit. It showed him walking out a different door 30 seconds before I did. It showed him getting in his car and driving away while I was getting arrested. But the worst part came during the trial when the prosecutor brought in another woman. Turns out Isaac had pulled this exact same scam on at least 4 other women. Same story every time. Take the cart to the car while I finish paying. I wasn't special. I wasn't the love of his life he'd come back for. I was just another mark in his long con. The jury took 90 minutes to find me guilty. Felony theft because the merchandise was worth over $2,500. I got 18 months probation, $3,500 in restitution, and a criminal record that basically guaranteed I'd never get a decent job again. But I still wasn't done making terrible decisions. My lawyer, that same bargain basement idiot who'd convinced me to go to trial, suggested I sue Sawyer. "He had a duty to warn you," he said. "His negligence directly led to your arrest." I was so angry, so desperate to make someone else pay for my situation, that I actually filed the lawsuit. It got thrown out immediately. The judge didn't even let my lawyer finish his argument. There's no legal duty to warn an ex-partner about another person's criminal history, she said. This case is dismissed with prejudice. Then she ordered me to pay Sawyer's legal fees, $1,200 I didn't have. I tried to approach him outside the courthouse afterward to explain that I'd been desperate, that the lawyer had convinced me I had a case, but he just looked right through me like I was nothing. You owe me $1,200, he said. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. Then he walked away. That was 8 months ago. I'm still paying him back $100 a month that gets garnished straight from my wages at the gas station where I work now, the only place that would hire someone with a felony record. I live in this tiny studio apartment that smells like cigarettes and regret. My credit is destroyed. My future is basically non-existent. And Sawyer, I heard through Dawn that he's doing great. Started seeing someone new a few months after I left. Some woman he met at a friend's game night. They seem happy together, really happy. The kind of happy I thought I deserved but was too stupid to appreciate when I had it. Look, I know what you're thinking. I know I brought all this on myself. I know I chose excitement over stability and got exactly what I asked for. But sitting here now, looking at what my life has become, I can't help but think that maybe Sawyer could have warned me. Maybe if he'd told me about Isaac's warrants, I would have made different choices. Maybe if he'd fought a little harder for our relationship, I wouldn't have been so eager to throw it away. The truth is, I'm not sorry I left him. A man who could watch his girlfriend walk into disaster and do nothing to stop it isn't the kind of man I want to be with anyway. But I am sorry about how everything turned out. I'm sorry I trusted Isaac. I'm sorry I believed his lies. I'm sorry I thought I deserved more than what I had. Most of all, I'm sorry that at 28 years old, I'm starting over with nothing while the man I called weak and pathetic is living his best life with someone who probably appreciates what she has. But that's on me. That's the choice I made. And now I get to live with it.